September 23rd. Oh, first day of autumn, huh? Already here. Well, we're looking at the situation here on the border, which we've had a recent a surge, I guess, in illegal immigration or quasi-legal immigration, what do you want to call it now, the migration. um, and so anyhow, I guess we've already topped last year's record, which last year was a record. And of course, we have one more month because we only have the data through the end of August for the number of people that the Border Patrol has had contact with. So we're going to probably be up to, I guess, close to 3 million. And there's all the gotaways on top of that. Because when I first started doing these videos, basically 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now, I had predicted that actually it is 3 years ago now, come to think of it. I predicted that the that there'd be at least 6 million illegal immigrants in the country if Biden won the presidency. Gee, I was kind of optimistic, right? Because at the rate we're going now, it's going to be quite a bit more. I'll probably be up to about, at least 10, I would say, with gotaways, maybe more, because nothing seems to be stopping this thing. And one thing I would want to point out is that I'm just saying, where are the lawsuits? I mean, it's quite clear that what Biden is doing is clearly illegal if the law was interpreted properly. I mean, for instance, and there's some real reasons to argue that. For one thing, these people are clearly not worthy of amnesty. Almost none of them really are, or not, almost none of them would qualify for two reasons. First of all, they're almost all economic in nature, not due to oppression, right? Second of all, even if they were legitimate people for amnesty, they're supposed to apply for amnesty in the first country that they came to, but they haven't done that. So really, they should almost all be deported immediately. In addition to the health issues, I mean, COVID isn't the only reason or the most serious disease that they're likely to be bringing into the country. Their health condition is clearly unknown, and many of them is pretty bad. So I think that title that they had on that, it would be a perfect thing to have kept in place, but of course the administration didn't do it as usual. And now they're offering increased numbers of work permits to the people that come here illegally, in my opinion. So my question still comes back to where are the lawsuits? I mean, the Democrats sued Trump one way and the other over what he was doing. It took years to get this all to the Supreme Court and get it cleared away so he could actually do what he needed to do. And the wall was being built and all that, of course. And of course, then he lost the election. And so there you have it. Of course, we can always. But anyway, if you like these videos, please give me a like. We need more subscriptions. Still working on getting to at least 100 here. I don't know why we can't get more than that, really. But and of course, you can click the bell there for notification if you want to. Yeah. So my point is that it looks to me like that we should try to sue the administration and try to force them into obeying the law in a reasonable way. I mean, for instance, this latest thing of work permits itself ought to be a good thing to challenge. But I think also the whole way it's being enforced. I mean, we've had all sorts of restraints on what we did back when Republicans were in office due to various lawsuits that have been filed, and of course. There was some trick lawsuits where I think the Obama administration or maybe it was the Clinton administration, there have been cases along the lines of where basically an activist group sues the government and then the government settles out of court when they could have won the case, but they deliberately throw the case because they really want the same result the activist group wants. There's those kind of cases too. It looks to me like the opportunities of litigation have really not been pursued as aggressively as one would think. I mean, it just seems to me to be negligence on the part of the conservative movements, and I guess it may be partly a matter of funding to do this, but I would think that we should be able to try to get some injunctions against the Department of Homeland Security and try to force them to change their policy and obey the law. And of course, if they don't obey the law, then we could take some action against the cabinet officials in question, such as maybe impose fines on them until they do obey the law, or something of that sort. The theory I have is that it would be interesting to see what could be done with the litigation, and yet I don't really hear of many cases being filed along that lines, or really many even being lost. So it is. I find this to be a very mysterious situation, where the Democrats have been able, and liberal activists have been able to pursue all these ideas, but that we haven't been. But as it is, that the country is simply being flooded with these illegal immigrants and migrants, whatever you want to call them, and it becomes increasingly unclear what's going to become of them. I mean, are there really jobs for all these people, even if they do have a work permit? And do they really need a work permit anyhow? They probably could just be hired illegally. I mean, isn't that the whole idea? So, at any rate, I don't, I don't think that a lot of these employers are using E-Verify when they're hiring some of these people. Just kind of my opinion, at any rate. So, at any rate, that's just kind of my thought on that we ought to see more aggressive litigation on the part of state attorney generals, governors, members of Congress. I mean, I think that the legislation is written as being misinterpreted, misapplied in gross ways. I mean, the same arguments were made against the student loan debt forgiveness, which was concocted. It was an extension of an existing law, but total misapplication. I think what they're doing with immigration law is similarly completely inappropriate. So anyway, that's kind of my thought on that one, and see what people think about it. If you have any ideas, comment on it, and you can see what kind of interesting there. And like I say, by the way, of course, I also want to make a comment on this Menendez indictment, which I made a little post on Twitter, and basically, or X is now called, but the thing was that I pointed out that, first of all, this isn't quite what it would seem to be. I mean, here you have a senator who really isn't following the uniformly the policies of the Democrat Party in every aspect, and given that he's from a Democrat-controlled state with a Democrat governor, if he were to be forced to resign, they could easily appoint a replacement that they'd probably be more happy with. And the second thing, of course, is I think this is a kind of a propaganda move to say, hey, we've been calling them out on their two-tier justice system, where they let Hillary Clinton go, but they indict Trump, that kind of thing, and prosecute him. Well, okay, so now they're prosecuting a prominent Democrat senator, a committee chairman of an important committee. All right, so that's that gives them the idea that, hey, maybe they're not being two-tiered after all, right? But the first point kind of negates the second point. It's somebody they wouldn't mind getting rid of anyhow, and they can easily replace with another Democrat, so they don't really lose anything by doing it. So it's just maybe a little bit of bad news, but probably they'll make some kind of out-of-court agreement here coming up, which will go along the lines of, if he'll agree to resign, they will, drop the charges to some fairly relatively minor charge compared to what he's initially going to be charged with, and maybe not have to do any prison time, or maybe something in some home arrest or something like that. I'm just thinking this may be what ends up happening. That he really isn't going to do years of hard time in prison. And yet they can replace him with somebody that's younger and more suited to the current Democrat policies. Anyway, that's just a thought on that subject. So, by the way, you can, of course, follow me on my social media accounts, which the addresses are in the description below. And I post most frequently my own things between videos on Twitter and or X as it's called. I can't use the X, but okay. And of course, I sometimes post on the other ones as well. And of course, this will go on both Rumble and here on YouTube. So until next time.